In a world obsessed with overnight success and instant gratification, we often overlook the quiet, consistent actions that truly shape our lives. We chase big breakthroughs, waiting for some magical moment to change everything while ignoring the simple truth. It's the tiny habits we perform every single day that determine who we become. Life isn't transformed by grand gestures, it's shaped by the small, repeated choices we make in the quiet moments when no one is watching. Tiny habits are the seeds of transformation. They don't scream for attention, they don't produce instant results, but like drops of water that wear down stone, they build momentum in the background until one day, the results are undeniable. Wake up a little earlier each day, and soon you'll find time to read, plan, and move with clarity. Speak kindly to yourself each morning, and over time your confidence starts to grow from the inside out. Take 5 minutes to stretch, to reflect, or to sit in silence, and before you know it, you've trained your nervous system to be calm under pressure. These aren't massive actions, but their impact over weeks, months, and years becomes life-altering. The problem is, we've been conditioned to believe that change has to be dramatic. We think we have to overhaul everything overnight. But that mindset is what leads to burnout, frustration, and quitting too soon. In reality, lasting change is born from doing something small, but doing it daily. It's brushing your teeth not once, but every morning and night for years. It's saving a little money every month, not waiting for the perfect time to start investing. It's drinking more water, going for a walk, saying no to one more distraction. None of these things sound impressive in the moment, but stack them up and they become the foundation for a powerful, purpose-driven life. What separates the successful from the stagnant isn't talent, it's consistency. People who win at life are the ones who make small decisions that align with their values and repeat them relentlessly. They build systems around their goals, not just hype around their dreams. They don't need motivation every day because their habits carry them even when their emotions try to pull them down. You don't need a massive breakthrough to start changing your life. You need a small shift, a decision, a tiny commitment to become 1% better today than you were yesterday. It may not look like much, it may feel too small to matter, but these small efforts are compounding, they multiply in silence, they work while you sleep, and one day they show up in your reality as confidence, discipline, clarity, and strength. So if you feel overwhelmed by how far you have to go, stop. Don't focus on the mountain, focus on the next step, focus on the tiny habit. That's the real secret. Because when you master the small, you unlock the power to shape the big. Tiny habits don't just change routines, they change identities. They don't just help you build a better life, they help you become the person who deserves that life. Feeling stuck is one of the most frustrating human experiences. You're not necessarily unhappy, but you're not fulfilled either. You're busy, yet you don't feel like you're moving forward. Days blur into weeks and you start to wonder, why does nothing seem to change? The truth is, most people don't feel stuck because they lack talent, intelligence, or potential. They feel stuck because they've neglected the one thing that moves everything forward. Small, consistent, daily discipline. We've been told a lie that says life changes in one dramatic moment, in the big win, the bold decision, the sudden breakthrough. But what actually keeps people from progressing is their quiet decision to delay the small things that truly matter. It's the skipped workout, the snoozed alarm, the ignored journal, the day without reading, the night without reflection. None of those choices seem life-altering in the moment, but stacked up over time, they become the invisible prison we live in. And that prison has no bars, just habits we're unaware of and routines we never question. When you feel stuck, it's usually not because you're lost, it's because you're disconnected from your own discipline. You're drifting through your days without clear intention. You're reacting instead of creating. You wake up and immediately hand your mind over to your phone, to noise, to stress, and before the day even starts, your focus is gone. Then you wonder why you're overwhelmed. You wonder why you can't move forward. When the truth is, you've been pouring energy into distraction instead of direction. Breaking free from that cycle doesn't require some massive life change. It doesn't take quitting your job, moving across the world, or waiting for inspiration to strike. It takes reclaiming your day, one small decision at a time. It starts by waking up and choosing to do something different, even if it feels uncomfortable. It means doing that workout even when your mind makes excuses. It means sitting down to read or reflect even when scrolling feels easier. It means making the harder choice, not because you feel like it, but because it builds who you're becoming. And when you start doing that, even in the smallest ways, something inside you begins to shift. You start to feel like you're steering the ship again. You feel momentum, even if it's tiny. You start trusting yourself more. Confidence grows not from shouting affirmations, but from keeping promises to yourself, no matter how small. That's the foundation of real transformation. You don't need to feel motivated every day. Motivation is fleeting. Discipline is sustainable. It's a discipline, daily, intentional action that pulls you out of the rut. That's how you go from stuck to unstoppable. You already have what it takes inside of you. The fire is there. You just have to feed it with the right habits, the right focus, and the right mindset. Because once you take back control of the little things, life stops happening to you and starts responding to you. We live in a world that celebrates intensity, dramatic before and after stories, sudden transformations, all or nothing efforts. Social media is filled with people doing extreme workouts, overnight hustle, or 30-day challenges designed to shock the system. But here's the truth no one talks about. Consistency beats intensity every single time. It's not the person who does everything perfectly for 1 week that wins. It's the person who shows up imperfectly again and again for months, for years. That's the real power. Doing a little every day might sound boring, it might feel slow, but that slow, steady rhythm builds something far more valuable than hype. It builds momentum. And momentum is what changes lives. You don't need to work out for 2 hours a day to get in shape. You need to move your body daily, even if it's just 10 minutes. You don't need to read 5 books in a weekend to be wise. You need to read 10 pages a day, every day. You don't need to write a novel in a week. Just 1 page a day adds up to a book in a year. Intensity burns bright, but often burns out. Consistency glows quietly, but it never stops growing. It doesn't demand perfection. It asks for presence. Just show up. Even on the days you don't feel like it. Especially on the days you don't feel like it. Because it's in those small acts of discipline, repeated over time, that you build your character, your focus, your future. The problem with intensity is that it's tied to emotion. You feel motivated, so you push hard for a while. But when that emotional high fades, you crash. You miss a day, then 2, then a week. And suddenly, you're back at 0. Consistency, on the other hand, doesn't care about how you feel. It's a mindset. It's a decision to do the thing no matter what. No drama, no excuses. Just the quiet power of persistence. And the beautiful thing is, consistency compounds. Just like money in a savings account gains interest, your efforts multiply when you stay the course. That 10-minute meditation you do every morning, it builds mental clarity over time. That one healthy meal you choose every day, it transforms your body, one cell at a time. That nightly journaling habit, it shapes your self-awareness, one reflection at a time. You may not see the results right away, but they're happening slowly, silently, powerfully. So if you're waiting for the perfect moment, the big burst of motivation, the dramatic change, stop. Start small. Stay steady. Let go of the pressure to be extreme and focus on being consistent. Progress isn't about how much you do in one day. It's about what you do over and over again, even when no one's watching, even when it's hard, even when it's boring. Because the person who keeps going, even with tiny steps, always outruns the one who sprints and stops. In the long run, it's not intensity that builds greatness. It's consistency. Real change doesn't come from one big moment of courage or one grand decision. It comes from the small, quiet acts of discipline that no one sees. The things you do when it's inconvenient, when you're tired, when you don't feel like it. That's where transformation lives. Micro-discipline is about doing the right thing, the empowering thing, in the smallest ways possible, day after day. It's brushing your teeth not once, but every morning and every night. It's drinking water instead of soda. It's opening a book instead of scrolling your phone. These choices seem minor, almost insignificant, but when repeated consistently, they trigger massive shifts over time. This is the compounding effect at work. Just like interest grows when you save money, small disciplines accumulate power the more you practice them. You may not notice the effect today, you may not even feel it next week, but eventually these tiny actions begin to build momentum. One habit reinforces another, one win boosts your confidence, one kept promise builds your self-respect, and slowly but surely your mindset begins to shift. Your productivity increases, your energy changes, you start to trust yourself, you start to show up differently, not because something dramatic happened, but because you showed up every day for yourself. The science behind this is simple. Habits create neurological pathways in your brain. Every time you make a disciplined choice, you strengthen those pathways, making it easier to repeat the behavior. With enough repetition, what once required willpower becomes automatic. The heart becomes habitual. You no longer have to force yourself to journal, meditate, wake up early, or exercise. It becomes a part of who you are. That's the secret of self-mastery. It's not about fighting your impulses every day. It's about designing your identity through repeated micro-actions that align with the person you want to become. The problem is that we often overlook the value of small efforts. We tell ourselves it's not worth it unless it's extreme. But that thinking is what keeps us stuck. True mastery isn't about doing one thing perfectly. It's about doing hundreds of small things consistently, even imperfectly. It's taking a walk when you don't have time for the gym. It's riding for 5 minutes when you're too tired for an hour. It's saying no to one distraction instead of every temptation. These are small victories, but they add up. They matter. And here's the beautiful part. Once microdiscipline becomes your lifestyle, everything begins to shift with it. Your confidence rises because you know you can rely on yourself. Your productivity increases because you waste less time on indecision. Your goals start to feel more reachable because you're taking real, measurable steps every day. You no longer wait for motivation, you act from habit. You stop fantasizing about who you could be and start becoming that person one disciplined moment at a time. In the end, it's not the giant leaps that change your life. It's the compounding effect of small, repeated efforts. That is where the real power lives. That is the quiet science of self-mastery in action. Every day, whether we realize it or not, we're being shaped by our habits. Some habits build us, others break us. They don't just affect how we feel, they define who we become. And too often we find ourselves stuck in patterns that silently sabotage our growth. We wake up and immediately reach for our phones, flooding our minds with noise before we've even taken a breath. We procrastinate on what matters and pour our time into distraction. We tell ourselves stories like, "I'm just lazy," or "that's just how I am," not realizing we're reinforcing the very identity that keeps us small. Toxic habits don't always look dangerous on the surface. Sometimes they're subtle. Sleeping in a little too late, avoiding discomfort, constantly seeking validation, or numbing our stress with entertainment. But over time, these patterns drain our energy, scatter our focus, and steal our confidence. They create mental clutter and emotional fatigue. And the longer we let them live in our lives, the harder it becomes to believe in our ability to change. But here's the truth. Those patterns are not permanent. They're not your destiny, they're choices. Repeated so many times that they feel like part of you. And anything that's learned can be unlearned. Replacing toxic patterns with empowering ones starts with awareness. You have to take an honest look at your routine and ask, what am I doing each day that's working against me? What habits are costing me clarity, time, or self-respect? And more importantly, What can I replace them with? Because change doesn't happen just by removing the bad. It happens by actively choosing the better. When you remove a negative habit, you must fill that space with something purposeful, something that aligns with the person you want to become. Instead of scrolling your phone first thing in the morning, try journaling or sitting in silence. Instead of escaping into distractions when you feel overwhelmed, take a walk or breathe deeply and ask yourself what you really need in that moment. Instead of numbing your pain, talk to someone or write it out. These are small shifts, but they are powerful, because every time you replace a self-sabotaging habit with a self-empowering one, you reclaim a piece of your life. You tell your mind, I'm in control, I'm capable, I choose better. The process isn't easy. At first it will feel uncomfortable. The toxic habits are familiar. They offer short-term comfort. But empowering habits offer something far more valuable: long-term peace, clarity and strength. With each choice you build momentum. And with that momentum you begin to see yourself differently. Not as someone who's stuck in old cycles, but as someone who's rising above them. Your future is being built by your present actions. Every day you are either reinforcing the past or constructing the life you deserve. The good news is you get to choose. Choose the habits that energize you. Choose the thoughts that strengthen you. Choose the discipline that brings freedom. Replace what drains you with what empowers you. That's how transformation begins, one choice at a time. Most people believe that change has to be massive, that to start over you need a dramatic event, a big win, a perfect plan, or a New Year's resolution. But the truth is far simpler and far more powerful. You are always one habit away from rewriting your entire story. One daily decision, one small act of discipline done consistently can create a ripple effect that touches every area of your life. You don't need a total life overhaul. You need one shift, one action, one new rhythm that realigns you with who you're meant to be. It could be something as simple as waking up an hour earlier to focus on your goals, or turning off your phone at night so you can get the sleep your mind needs to thrive, or drinking more water to feel energized, or writing down your thoughts so you can finally understand what's really going on inside. One habit may seem like a small thing, but it carries with it a quiet power. The power to disrupt an old pattern, challenge a limiting belief, and spark the beginning of something entirely new. We often underestimate the force of one consistent behavior. But when you repeat it daily, you begin to rewire your brain. You're no longer operating from who you were, you're acting from the identity of who you're becoming. That one habit becomes a keystone, a foundation on which other changes begin to stack naturally. When you start taking care of your body, you begin thinking clearer. When you start managing your time, you feel less overwhelmed. When you speak kindly to yourself, you build courage to chase bigger goals. It all starts with one habit that tells your mind, we're not going back. We're moving forward now. You don't need a new year to change. You don't need permission. You don't need to wait for everything to be perfect. You just need to start. And the start doesn't have to be loud or impressive. It just has to be real. Maybe today is the day you decide to stop complaining and start creating. Maybe it's the day you stop running from discomfort and start building resilience. Maybe it's the day you choose growth over fear, discipline over distraction, and purpose over passivity. That's all it takes. One shift repeated daily. And yes, you'll stumble. Yes, you'll have days where it's hard, where you want to quit, where it feels like nothing's changing. But here's the difference. When that habit is rooted in vision, when it's tied to who you truly want to become, it keeps pulling you forward, even when progress is slow, even when no one sees it. Because deep down, you'll know you're not who you used to be, you're becoming something stronger. So if life feels messy, if your past weighs heavy, if the road ahead feels uncertain, remember this: you are one habit away from a completely different path. You don't need to change everything, just change one thing. And do it until it changes you. That's how a new story begins. Now you know the truth most people never hear. It's not the big leaps that change your life. It's the small, consistent steps. It's not about waiting for the perfect time, the right motivation, or the new year. It's about what you do today, right now. These 10 small habits aren't just routines, they are reminders. Reminders that your future is being written in the small decisions you make when no one's watching. Reminders that your power doesn't come from doing everything. It comes from doing something every single day with intention. You don't need to be perfect, you just need to be present. You don't need to be extreme, you just need to be consistent. And you don't need a whole new life, you just need one new habit. The one that starts the momentum. The one that builds the next. The one that wakes you up to your strength, your discipline, your purpose. Your story is not finished, and the beautiful part is you get to decide how the next chapter goes. Let your habits reflect the life you're building. Let your discipline become your freedom. Let your small efforts compound into something unshakable. Because when you master the small, you earn the right to live something extraordinary. So don't just listen to this speech and move on. Choose one habit. Start today and keep showing up. Because your future is waiting not for a miracle, but for your decision.